Let's review what we covered in the last video and along the way introduce some new terminology. Let's talk about operators and operands. So we saw arithmetic expressions in the previous video, and we would take a literal, say the number 2, then write some symbol to indicate the desired operation. Let's go with a plus sign, and then another literal, and when we hit return, the Python interpreter acts on this expression. It sums those two numbers, it produces the new value 5, and in the interactive environment that's just echoed back to us. Later we'll see how we can store values to variables, but for now we'll just leave this to be echoed back to us, and we see the number 5. Let's do one more literal expression here that involves multiplication. So we have 12 times 5, where the asterisk indicates multiplication, and that gives us 60. So in general, these arithmetic expressions have a form that looks something like this. We'll call it an operand, and then there is some operator, and then another operand. Those terms in angle brackets are just placeholders, so we'll replace them with something. And when it comes to those operators, we've seen that we can use a symbol, say plus, for addition, indicating we want to perform addition. We can write the hyphen or negative sign for subtraction. When it comes to multiplication, we've said that we use the asterisk. And there are two different types of division. A single slash is for float division, where if there's a fractional part, it'll be preserved. And if we write two slashes, that's for floor division. That tells us how many multiples of one number there are in the other. Now, these operators are all binary operators in that they operate on two things. They operate on two operands, one to the left of the operator and one to the right of the operator. So I said these are binary operators, but that doesn't have anything to do with binary numbers. That just means that they operate on two operands. Okay, but what is an operand? And within the context of these arithmetic expressions, an operand is an expression that returns a numeric value. So an operand can be an expression that returns a numeric value. But what's the simplest expression for a numeric value that we have? Well, I've mentioned this before. The simplest expression is a literal. So at the top of the screen where we had 2 plus 3, the operands there were just literals. Same goes with the 12 times 5. We have the literal 12, the literal 5, and the operator of multiplication in between them. But things can be more complicated than that. Let's consider 12 times 5 plus 2. So this expression still just has literals in it, but when we hit return, what happens? Well, let's see the result first. We got 62. Now, where'd that come from? Well, it may not be entirely obvious, but this is coming from 12 times 5, which is evaluated first. So I'm going to say the multiplication was done first. When this expression was interpreted, that calculation was performed, and that returned 60. But we weren't done with the expression. Then we went on to add, or Python did this for us, 60, the result of the multiplication, plus the 2. So then the addition came next. And then we see our result of 62, same as above. But why was the multiplication done first? Well, that depends on the precedence of these operators, and we'll talk about that in the next video.